Today, we'll be looking at data. What is data? What activities do we perform on data? Why do we need data? How do we translate data to information? And we'll look at the concept of databases. We'll look at the hierarchy from character, a unit concept, up until we get to data warehousing. We'll be using two materials. I'll be sharing two materials. The first is Introduction to Information Systems by Patricia Wallace, and the second is Discovering Computers Fundamentals, Your Interactive Guide to the Digital World, edited by Shelley and Vermaat. So those two materials, I'll be sharing some stuff from them for this class so that we'll understand basically what data means and how do we move around the world of data. Right. Now, let's start with understanding data. Start with understanding data. What is data? Data basically are facts. Facts about an object. Facts about a process. Facts about people. Fact about a system. Fact about any entity can be referred to as data. Data could include your voice, image, audio, video, text, numbers, including your space bar is also seen as data. Most times, when you collect data, data is collected in raw form. Let me give you an example. When you go to the bank and you want to open an account, eventually you go to the bank or you're filling the form online, all the detailed information they're asking from you is your name, what is your gender, when were you born, where do you live, what is your email address, what is your phone number. All these are data. And data comes in natural order. Data comes in natural order. For instance, if you are to enter a banking hall or log in into an application, at the end of the day, if it is date and time stamped, the time every person logged in will be there. The person that logged in by 4 p.m. will probably not be listed first before the person that logged in by 1 a.m. But when this is done, we see it as the natural order of data. So when this is done, some of the activities that you perform on data to transform it from raw data to information cannot happen. Activities like you can now choose to rearrange it, peradventure separating it with different places that people come from or using the agenda. In that sense, you have performed an activity on that raw data. You have performed rearrangement, sorting. And because that activity has been performed on that raw data can give you some information. Because if you arrange it, separate it with gender, you can now count how many male gender or how many female gender or any other gender that is disclosed when the data is being captured. In that sense, you can say we have 25 females that log in onto our application today. That has become an information. But the 25 of them did not come at the same time. They were coming at their own time. So that is data. That is the raw form of data. When the act of sorting was performed, it sorted those who are male, those who are female, any other gender separately, and another activity was performed. It was counted. So sorting and counting, activity that was performed on that raw data, then there is an information. We have 25 females that log in to our portal today. So you can see that data that are processed now become information. data that are processed now become information. In that sense, we say data that is processed, organized, presented in a matter that is useful, in a manner that is useful and meaningful is an information. When you are done with understanding what data is and what information is, the next thing is, what is a database? Database are collection of related data, collection of related facts that allow you for easy access, easy categorization, easy retrieval, and you can even perform other activities on the database. So database are collection of related data. An example, the example I gave earlier. So the people that enter the banking or log into the portal on day one, you have their name, probably first name, last name, province, phone number, email. When you have 40 of them, which you said 25 are female parental, the remaining 15 are male, that is a database because related items are put together. That is a database. And any software that helps us to understand this, to manage, to capture, to manage, to present, to preserve, to give access to other application individual, that database software is called database management system. The entire of that is called database management system. You can create, you can modify, you can delete, you can sort, you can rearrange, you can filter and take the ones you want, and several other activities can be performed on a database. Several other activities can be performed on a database. Several other activities can be performed on a database. How do we collect this data? There are different ways of collecting data. Basically, I want to categorize this into two: primary method of data collection and secondary method of data collection. What are the primary method of data collection? We have different methods. It's said to be cumbersome. It involves some resources to be deployed into the activity. One of them is interview. You can be interview, people be talking to them and be keeping what they're saying. You can ask 10 questions to 15 different people and note what the responses of each of them is. In that, and you are collecting data from them. Another one, when you fill a form, either physical form with pen and paper or form that you fill online using any of your computing devices, you are providing data. When you click submit, the data you have provided on that form is already logged into a database table. Questionnaire, you can have series of questions on a paper or on a form, using any online form, and ask people to give your opinion. Survey, online survey, sometimes series of questions and options. Some you could have them to type the options. That is also another way of collecting data. Observation, you could sit to observe, and while you are observing, you might be capturing yourself, or some other capturing devices are capturing it, and after it's been captured, it's properly laid in lines, in rows on the database table. That is means of collecting data. Another one, can use camera, because there are times that you want to capture data that the appearance of human could distort the quality of that data. And we'll talk about data quality very soon. So you could use other devices to capture those data so that people doesn't even know that the data is being kept. Although there are issues regarding security, there are issues regarding exposing people information, there are regulations that guide all that. But I'm just trying to let you know other forms of collecting data. These are primary source of data collection. They are primary sources of data collection. Another way you can collect data is secondary sources. Peradventure, you don't have the resources to do all this, or you don't even have the wherewithal in terms of technical expertise or even time. You could get people that already have this data, either at a fee or, depending on them, or free for you to make use of them. For instance, If I want to know how many people has written national examination in my country for a certain year, I might not have the legal backup or the authority to collect that data, but I can go to the institution that collect the data and said, I need the number of people, or I need the details of people that wrote this exam between this time and this time. If you want to know what the volume of banking transaction is, you can go to a bank, or you can go to a bank that coordinates the activities of banks. So when you do all that, the data that you are not the one that collects it and relevant for what you want to do, we call that secondary sources of data collection. We call that secondary sources of data collection. Why am I laying emphasis on data collection? The quality of data that you have would determine the quality of insight that that data will give to you. And that is why data integrity is very, very important. It is better not to provide data than provide data that the facts therein are distorted and not true. So data integrity is very important. And that's the computer acronym GIGO is very much relevant here. GIGO means garbage in, garbage out. If you supply wrong data or data that is not accurate, data that the facts therein are distorted, the result of your information, the result of your summary, of your computation from those data will not provide, will not reflect the true reality, because the data does not represent what actually happened. So data integrity is very, very, very key and very important. You can see an example of different data here, databases that is assigned, is printed out, is collected from a form. You can see all that. Now, what are the qualities of valuable information? It's very important. You know, information comes from data. We have already said that data that is processed is what we refer to as information. Valuable information helps us to make good decisions. It helps us to make good decisions because it reflects exactly what is happening. For instance, if you see the sales of a certain product in a certain location by a company, you will know that those that have this type of consumption, these are other things that they need. And that could help you to ask if other people are providing such services, or is an opportunity for you to provide those services just by virtue of the fact that you have access to their consumption pattern from another organization. So having the right data helps us to make quality decision. Having the right data helps us to make quality. Other important of valuable information is it helps us to plan. It helps us to plan. If a country knows exactly what its population is in different segments and clusters, what the demography looks like in terms of their age, in terms of their interests, their needs, it helps to plan. If a student knows, I mean, a teacher knows that 500 students will be coming to write an exam, it helps to determine the kind of facility that will be able to accommodate them, whether all of 500 of them can write that exam at once, or they need to put them in batches based on facilities that are available. So having the right data gives us the right information, and it helps planning. It helps decision-making, it helps planning. It also helps for control. You can use data to detect deviation and ensure that those deviations are corrected on time. You can use data to detect deviation. Data also help organizations to have competitive advantage. It has productivity because it gives correct information about their product, about their consumer, both new and potential consumers. So having the right data helps. It helps in legislation. You will look at the existing legislation, look at population, look at consumption, look at people's attitude when you have all the data, and you'll be able to know whether the current registration is enough. to guide them. Another advantage of data, it helps for prediction. For instance, if you collect data, for instance, I give an example of people that wrote certain exams. If you have an idea of people that wrote the exam 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and probably the immediate year, in that sense, you already had a pattern. So when you have a pattern of data, you can see whether the data is the same, is growing, or is shrinking. If it's growing or shrinking, you will know at what percentage. When you know that, you will be able to plan. All things being equal, if there are no act of God that distorts things going on, you will be able to plan when you have data. So all these are advantages of having the right data, and almost everyone is either a data item, contribute to a data, or do something that has to do with data or information almost on an hourly basis. Almost on an hourly basis. And that shows how much important data and database management system is. In some of our subsequent series, we'll also talk about big data and some other related terms. But what I'm doing here is picking it from the foundation and growing it up so that we all have a better understanding of what data is, the importance of data in our daily activities, and how computing helps in managing, in collection, in providing access, in retrieval, in storage, and in ensuring that we use this data to increase our productivity, reduce cost, and have more value and benefits. Now, let's look at hierarchy of data. Now, we started from data is facts or facts. And just like I said, the word data is already pluralized. The single form of data is datum. Now, the smallest of it is a field. What do I mean by a field? When you look at it, a field of data is just talking about one data item. For instance, if you say, what is my surname? That's a field. Say, what's my gender? Whatever I supply is a field, just one data item. If you say, which year was I born? Whatever I supply there is a data item. So you can see what a field looks like. So about me alone, I can have different fields. I have information to put in different fields, depending on the purpose for that database. For instance, the field of data that will be in my banking information could be my name, surname, other names, my gender, date I was born, the type of account that I have, what is my opening balance, what is my minimum, what is my current balance, what was the last time I transacted. That could be there. That's a banking database. The same me, if I belong to a school as a student, I could have my name, the courses I registered for, my grades on those courses, the department I belong to, and probably the lecturer that taught me those courses. The same me, if I work somewhere, I could have my staff ID, my designation, the level that I am, how much I earn, whether on a weekly or daily basis or monthly basis. The same me in the hospital, I will probably have my blood group, my genotype, apart from my name, apart from my age. So you can see that one entity with interest in different areas will have different aspects of him in those areas. And when we're talking about databases, we're not talking about only humans. We said entity generally. It could be class. You have the name of the car type, the day it was manufactured, the person is allotted to, the speedometer, how the mileage that has done. You can see about any entity. Each of those fields now have data type. The type that will come here can be text. For instance, if you ask for my name, we're expecting text, not numbers. Some could be numeric. If you have my age, we're expecting numbers and not text. Some could be autonumeric, parental, social security number, NIN number. You could have currency to hold dollars, to hold currency, naira, yen, dollar, pounds, different currency of the world. We also have another data type that is called dates. In case you want to date of birth, date of employment, date admitted, things like that. We could also have what we call the yes or no. It could be true or false. We have memo, the one that can go for lengthy text. Peradventure, you want to put a note, can they put a comment? Then we also have objects, a photo, a short video. We also have hyperlink, email address. And we also have an attachment. For instance, you could have an attachment if you're sending an email. So the attachment could be an attachment, the date you send the email, the time the email was sent, the title of the email. The text of the email can be under memo. So you can see all these are different types of data that goes into a field. Field is the smallest. And from a field, we now have a record. And what is a record? What is a record? We have gone from a data item to having a record, and from records, we are going to file. What is a record? A record is an information about the same entity on different fields. What do I mean? I've given several examples of me in different places as a student, as an employee, as a patient in an hospital, as a customer to the bank. So in that bank, all those information, my surname is a field, my name is a field, my gender is a field, the type of account I operate is a field, my minimum balance, opening balance is a field, and my current balance is a field. All those things about me on that row is my record. Do you get that? Is my record. So a record is a group of related fields. That is information across the field on one entity. And we know we have different, so each row record represents one entity. Sometimes it could be a transaction database, a transaction table. In that time, it would be date of transaction, time of transaction, transaction type, transaction ID, status of transaction, whether it's successful, whether it's not successful, whether it's pending. You can have amount of transaction. You can have location of transaction. You can have point of transaction, either cash withdrawal at the bank, either POS usage, either internet banking, either mobile banking. So all those information about that very particular transaction is the record of that transaction. And there are several fields. So on the same field, you have other transaction by either the same person or other people. And for every record, there is a key that must be unique. It's usually called the primary key. It is unique because the way database management system is structured, in every table, at least one field must be unique in terms of what it takes. And when I'm talking about uniqueness here, I'm talking about the fact that no two entities should have the same thing. And I'm going to give you examples. In the hospital, my medical number, when they say this, your medical number, no other person should have that medical number. Another thing is phone number. And that is why when you dial somebody's number, it calls that person directly because that phone number is unique to him. Another is social security number. In Nigeria, NIN number, Nigeria identity number. In a school, your matriculation number. In your office, your staff number. Some of those numbers are so unique that even if that entity ceases to exist, such numbers are not reallotted to someone else. And that is why primary keys are usually given by the owners, creators, or manager of the database. And most primary keys will have interpretations. When somebody sees your social security number, you can know the state where you come from. Somebody sees your NIN, you can have an understanding of what happens. If somebody sees your matric number, you can know the faculty or the college that you're admitted to or graduated from. So primary keys are unique and it's identify every record uniquely in a database table. Then we'll go to file. What are files? Files now are collection of related records. Files are collection of related records. So in a school, for example, all the information you have about academic matters can be called academic files. Then those files, you cannot have different departments. Department of Banking, Department of Accounting, Computer Science Department, Department of Systems Engineering. You can see all these are files. In fact, they are data files. So you can see what I have here now. You can see on my screen, you can see what field are, you can see what a record is. Then you can see student ID. That's the key field. That's the primary field. That is the field that is unique. That's the field that is unique. So in a file, there are several activities you do in a file. You add record, you remove record, you rearrange record, you sort record, you search for record, you filter record, you modify, change records. There are several information you can do in a database. And deletion too, if you don't need a record again, you can delete it, you can yank it off. In doing all this, there are what we call privileges and rights, and it's going to be monitored. For instance, if a database is an institutional database, everybody that has right to either add, modify, or delete will be given that right, and there's a part of the computer system that is recording each of those activities so that we can hold people responsible for the activities that they do on the record. For instance, in a banking system, if somebody moves 10,000 from your account to his own account, you must be able to know, because you will come and complain that your money is not what it should be. So there are control and security systems that grants people access and control what everybody does on the database, and control what everybody does on the